right? I think what I've been talking about, and this waste is real. And my inspiration has been my wife. I've been talking about it. And while she has been practicing a zero waste life, and I've been doing a lot of waste in the industry, that led me to think about it and started doing something for the industry. And that's why it's Stylumia. Now, let me just take you through the magnitude of the problem globally, right? Over 150 billion products are made every year. And sadly, and this is per capita of, roughly around, 7 to 8 garments, 20 garments per capita. And the amount of wastage in this industry is over 50 billion. 1/3 of products go to landfill. And sadly, fashion is number 3 after oil and food in terms of overall carbon footprint. So we are creating not only huge economic wastage and a huge sustainability wastage that results in over 100 billion kgs of carbon every year, in case if you don't waste this. And in terms of amount of water, it's 135 billion kiloliters of water. And right, if you have 3 liters of water for a human being, and that to clean water that so many people can survive. So that's the amount of water we are wasting. And this is equivalent of deforesting over 5 billion trees. Phenomenal amount of impact. Now, is that all, right? That's a sustainability impact. So let's look at economic impact of this wastage. This is McKinsey 2021 numbers. The profitability of the industry has been declining over the years. The deep fall is purely because of COVID. It has bounced back, but still the trend is continuing. Now, the trend is worrying. Now, is it across one segment of the industry, or it's across various segments? It's almost across all segments except luxury, where it's in double-digit EBITDA. Most of the fashion and lifestyle industry globally is still straddling around single-digit EBITDA. So we have a double-sided problem. It's an economic problem and also a huge amount of wastage. So how do we solve this problem, and why has this not been solved so far with all the current practices? So this is the question that I was thinking about during my last stint in Myntra. Therefore, what we did was, the industry is normally push driven. The brands decide what the customers want. And as we see, 1 out of 2 products don't sell well. So we created an experimental brand which was reverse. It was moving from consumer to consumer, in the sense, listen to the consumer and they then make the proposition. Of course, there is creativity, but it's bound by consumer insights. Now, fast forward, that brand outperformed the rest of the brands in the portfolio by a factor of 100% on 3 key metrics: velocity of stock out, which is velocity of sale, and inventory turns and profitability. That led me to believe that why not we do this for the industry at large. So before we come to the solution, let's look at, if you have to completely eliminate wastage, what are the various options? So I'm going to take you through some options, and then we can choose which one which is practical, we can solve problems at scale. Number 1, if the entire industry makes everything for the one, like which is happening in marketing today, and people in marketing on the call would realize, for marketing has gone through huge transformation using technology, right? Today, we can actually market for one. Now, which was not possible in TV, which was not possible in mass media. Today, using digital, you could actually market for one. Imagine this industry made for one, right? Everybody, whatever they need is available instantly, then we would solve this problem. For there will not be any wastage. But this system has scale challenges. Even if you use 3D printing, but today the technology is not developed for you to scale, and it has long wait time. But can we use these technologies to solve at least part of the problem? Can we make samples? Can we read and react with the customers? Yes, definitely possible. So this is one of the solutions. Will not solve the 50 billion surplus or a wastage problem. The second solution is, today, I would ask this question, and you can answer based on the people you see. Have you seen people who actually buy clothing for them to look good in digital media when they post on social media? What do you think? Have you seen people who actually buy new products for posting in digital? Yes or no on the chat box? So fair amount of products today are being bought just for digital purposes. Now, why should somebody make physical products if we want to satisfy ourselves in the digital space? So this is another area to solve the problem now for the digital world. Now, if you can clothe yourself digitally, but without buying a product, we will save 99% of the carbon footprint. And in 2021 alone, and you must have heard about NFTs and $10 billion worth NFTs, which are basically digital product sold for digital consumption. And it's selling, and people are buying just digital assets without a physical product. And it's growing. We also seen that gaming and fashion is completely merging. Right now, nobody thought that fashion and gaming will come together. In fact, the future of competition for fashion is not coming from fashion, it's coming from outside fashion, and gaming is definitely one such area. Now, but having said that, will this solve the 50 billion problem? No, we are not all the time in digital, but to the extent of digital avatars, now we can sell NFT and then minimize this carbon footprint. So that leaves us with still the question of how are we going to solve the large problem? Now, what that means is that if we can't make to one for everybody and we can't completely solve using digital, we need to continue to forecast and make physical products, because physical products still takes time. Irrespective of how much time that you shrink, it still takes time and we need to forecast. So how do we forecast right? Now, the current industry is doing forecasts now. The attributes of that is it's slow, it's subjective. People plan by season, people plan by month, but customer demands are changing on an ongoing basis. It's unreliable, it's unresponsive because it is static, it is snapshot, it's ineffective, it's unscalable. We can see the amount of wastage, it's very expensive. See the amount of wastage that we have talked about, 50 billion products in, you put even a few dollars there, billions of waste, over $600 billion wastage every year. Now, what is the biggest elephant in this room is about, we all think in this industry that we can forecast right. Now, the starting point is we need to say to ourselves that we are not forecasting right? That's the biggest elephant in the room. Now, how do we address this elephant? Now, one approach to that is the transformation of, moving from business to consumer to business, which is to say, understand consumer and then make propositions. Now, it's easier said than done. How do you understand consumer demand, which is not a public data? So in other words, the thesis is about unforecast. Forecast will always have an error. So forecast less, and we'll see what that means. So make it dynamic, not static. So it's about doing this more frequently than ever before. And hence it will be scalable because it will be driven by technology, and it will become economical if you reduce the wastage, and it will be effective overall so that the overall value chain becomes a lot better than before. For the transformation we are talking about is listen to the consumer through data. Now, we are basically saying if you are a fashion brand, if you are while I'm saying, keep saying fashion, before look at your proposition, if you put consumer at the center of everything you do, you're going to be all the time relevant. And that the key word is being relevant. Every business wants to be relevant in a dynamic context. So how do you understand that consumer? So it's not that we are saying this, therefore we look at Gartner. Gartner is a global technology advisory and consulting firm. And they have been talking about this. Every business wants to know more truth about customers. And all of us always have some assumptions about our customers. The more the intersection, more the business value. So that's something that we are planning to do. We are doing for our customers, which is to say, how do each brand and retailer get more truth about their customers? Now, what that means to the way that the business works is all of the businesses start with saying that we discussed about a case study called tea. And I'm sure you might be doing whatever service or product that you're making. You start with that product or service, you call it category. And then on the other side is consumer or customers if you're in B2B. Then you do all of these processes, planning, sourcing, assorting, pricing, ordering, fulfillment. Finally, you take the product or service and help fulfill with your customers. Now, this is a very linear way of approaching the business. For the transformation which is happening is, can you put customers at the center and do all of these activities and fulfill the needs of that customer? Now, how is that possible? And recently, Gartner spotted Stylumia to be enabling this transformation with a level 4, level 5 maturity. Now, I want to give you a sense of an article that I read very recently in Harvard Business Review, which is the latest issue. And I just picked up a snapshot here. If you're running whatever business you are running, one way to look at, in fact, the title of the entire article, that book, was Know What Your Customers Want Even Before They Do. And they've given a 4 quadrant construct, and I found it very interesting. One is x-axis is zooming in and zooming out, and y-axis is your mainstream customers and your periphery customers, right? And you can look at, typically what happens is we start focusing too much on our existing customers and pay a lot of attention to detail, which is important, which is, they call it the microscope way of zooming into your customers and have a microscopic view. The other thing that they recommend is sometimes take an elevated view, which we call it the 40,000 feet view. Can you have a 40,000 feet view of your customers, which is the panoramic views? The other way you could look at is you go into your peripheral customers who are not your target customers, but they are on the periphery. Then you have a telescopic view and focus on them. And if you broaden at that level, that becomes a kaleidoscopic view. And I'm going to give you 1 or 2 examples, practical examples, which will help you decode what that means. For example, the microscopic view is having anthropologists study your customers. Either you have anthropologists studying your customers, or you have data-based mining of your customers to understand what they actually are, which is a microscopic view. Just to tell you that Microsoft is said to be world's 2nd largest recruiter of anthropologists, behind only US government. For technology companies are investing in understanding consumers deeply, both from a qualitative perspective through anthropologists and through data science. The second is panoramic view. For example, the one case study in this article, which talks about somebody called Alexander, found most of the incidents, his kid wanted trampoline. And wife said trampoline is very, very risky. And I see that a lot of people are getting injured or because of trampoline. And what he did was, he did actually a study, a panoramic view of that trampoline market, and said, why people are getting injured. What he found out was, 1, it's because of the springs. And second, there are no enclosures in most of the trampolines the kids play. That led him to actually come out with an idea, which is a springless enclosure, and with enclosure a trampoline. And today is actually, found out a market which never existed before. So that's the panoramic view. A telescopic view is, for example, you can find out people who struggle with existing offerings, which is not the core customers who are very happy, the unhappy customers on the periphery. And, for example, do you know, just a question, do you know audiobooks are invented for what? Anybody on the chat? The audiobooks, which we all listen, whether it's audio. Who are they invented for, as per you?
People who cannot see properly, who have vision problems.
Absolutely. Audiobooks were created for a peripheral customers who had vision impairment. And today is a mainstream product. And it's catching up. Now you can see, right? That's like the telescopic view of your business, and say how a mainstream product comes out of solving a problem for a very small segment. And similarly, electric toothbrush. Any idea? It was invented for people with
limbs issues. Maybe.
Exactly. And today it's a mainstream product. So what I'm saying is how a telescopic view of your customer and market can create ideas which becomes mainstream, and you also become very, very innovative. The kaleidoscopic view is something that, for example, Volvo initially were focusing on safety, right? Volvo means safety. All of us know they make the safest car in the world and the safest trucks in the world. And what Volvo did was, a kaleidoscopic view of their business, which means they saw a report from Swedish insurance company, which mentioned that maximum accident. See, why are you building all this safety? You want to minimize accident, right? And the research said maximum accidents happen with cyclists, not with trucks and cars. Now that was eye-opener for the Swedish car maker. What they did was use this insight, saying that if I really want to be safe on the road, they built technology which will help prevent cycle accidents. It had sensors of cycles on the road. For they still build safe trucks, but they added on feature which will minimize cycle accidents. For now, you see that looking at a market from a different perspective, narrow focused and wide on that, and a 40,000 feet focus and then wide on that, you're going to be spotting opportunities you've never spotted before. I just want to leave you that with that construct, and then let me just move on into the business that we are in. We've been talking about understanding consumer at scale. If you understand consumer and then make products, then you will minimize a lot of error that we are talking about in the fashion lifestyle industry. Now, how do we do that? We started with this question, and what we did was built an engine which captures retail data from online at scale on a daily basis. As we speak, we have over 3 billion impressions. We built a neural network whose job is like Google ranks pages every day. We rank products globally on a daily basis, which means if you have questions like, what are the trending dresses in India in price point X to Y, that India could be US, it could be UK, it could be Japan, all of that you will get in few clicks. Now the question you will ask is, what you spot online is only supply. Now, how do you decode demand, right? For this engine is decoding demand, not supply. It actually ranks all products on a daily, weekly basis to come out with true consumer demand trends. You're not looking at supply trends. And then this data is provided to the decision makers who could be the creators in this industry, and we help them become superhuman. And this cycle continues. What we are now solving for is a dynamic consumer demand spotting engine, which is provided to these decision makers. It's almost like consumer research on steroid. Now, what we have impacted so far is over 30% waste reduction, and that's 30% carbon footprint reduction for the industry. Now, at this point of time, I really want to give you, a research done by all of us. When we run businesses, we think that we understand our customer. Stanford recently did a research, and this is what they did. They called a lot of participants, split them into two groups. And one group, their job was to think about a music and tap on the table. And they made the second group to listen to the taps and then guess what these guys are actually tapping for. For what they did, they called the first group as tappers and the second group as listeners. At the end of this exercise, they asked all the tappers, what do you think is the percentage of people who actually listened, got your song right? Any guesses in the audience? What the tappers thought that the listeners got their song right? What percentage? And we all have experience ourselves, right? We think and sometimes we tap. What is your experience of what somebody would guess that song right? Any wild guesses?
20%.
Very low percentage.
They all thought actually, they all thought that it was around 50%. But then what they did is went to the listeners and actually found out the data, how many of them really found it right. Any guesses on this? What was the reality of they getting it right?
Very low percentage, maybe 5%.
You're absolutely right, 2.5%. 2.5% of the people got actually the tapping right, but the tappers thought they know it. At least one out of the two will decode. Now, this all happens to our businesses. We think we know our customers, right? Therefore, there is a huge loss. Therefore, we need to go closer and closer to understanding our customers, because everything we do in the business is for that. Now, data actually comes in one way to help that cause. As you can see here, this waste reduction is a function of minimizing that gap. Nobody will make it fully, and we do that by providing a SaaS solution, as you're seeing on the screen, so that people can understand trends of consumers across markets, right? I want India, I want US, Europe, everything on few clicks. And we also try to find out, whether if you use data, would you have read the trends properly or better? We did some study. We tracked between 2020-21 across a product category called mini skirts, across luxury market, fast fashion market. If you have listened to supply, if you have done traditional research, how would you have gone about what the numbers are telling us? If you've gone through supply traditional way, let's say, for example, in fast fashion, 77% lift in that particular mini skirt trend, compared to if you listen to consumer demand, it is 133%. So For significant difference in terms of what the market actually behaved vis-a-vis how we spot otherwise. So that's the numbers to explain. Now, wastage happens because two reasons. One, we get the trend wrong. Second, we also make in wrong quantities, right? Therefore, there is a what problem and there is a how much problem. For the second solution that we provide for the brands and retailers is helping them reduce the forecast error. In towards the engine that we have today is you show a new dress, the system will tell you how good it will perform. It looks very simple, but there is a lot of data work which needs to happen in the background for it to happen. For we help reduce the forecast accuracy reduction anywhere between 10 to 30%. That in this business means almost doubling your profitability. For we can do this even without making a sample if somebody has a very high quality 3D image. So there is a lot of sampling in this industry, which can also come down if we start to predict so that we make the right products for the customers. One of our customers, this is a jewelry retailer, one of the Tata Group companies where we help them predict demand. We have reduced the error rate from over 13% to under 5% over the last few months, and that includes the COVID period. Now, today we saw from Adi demonstration of how generative AI can help. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is one of the solutions that we have. Of course, it's not commercial in the market, but you can actually create dresses in few clicks. So what you're seeing on the screen is that we are creating a sleeveless dress with two colors. And the dress what will come on the screen is completely machine generated. And such a dress does not exist in the world. And it passes Google image test, and one can then fine tune the idea, change the attributes. The sleeveless has now become with sleeve. You want to change the pattern. You want to, infuse some other patterns, then you would see a different design. Now, the idea here is how do we help also the creators with new ideas, right? We are solving, as we see, we solve using the engine, demand engine, first the what problem, then the forecasting engine on the how much problem. And now here, how do we enable the creatives to come out with ideas which will have minimal gap between supply and demand. And, we have, we have customers cutting across Fortune 100. We started with fashion and moved beyond fashion. We have, for example, Lowe's is a Fortune 50 retailer in the US. Therefore, we are across fashion, accessories, jewelry, shoes, into home and home improvement, and eventually category agnostic, because this problem is very, very generic. And we have compelling partnerships, whether it's McKinsey, whether it's Pantone, and leading consulting companies in the market. Some few recognitions, whether it is Gartner, Amazon AI Award, or United Nations championing for us, because we never thought that we are solving a sustainability problem. And UN spotted us as one of the 6 circular change makers, because if we reduce the forecast error, we're all making less and making the right stuff and saving the planet. Now, if we, this is the kind of impact so far we have created, saved around 120 million products a year. And that's equivalent of planting 10 million trees. And that's the satisfaction we get. So can one company solve this problem for the entire industry at global level? No. So I think all of us need to come together. For the point that we are trying to make is, it's not about, you must be hearing a lot about recycling, reuse and all of that. Where we come from is, can we even avoid waste at the first place, right? Once you avoid wastages, then of course, all of these recycle. We help minimize the overall. And if you just put this to a global scale, what is possible, we could all save close to 1.5 billion trees, equivalent uprooting, by using technology and data to take informed decision only in this industry as we speak. We keep getting requests beyond the fashion industry. In fact, I was during my last US trip, I met somebody who's in the metal supply chain, and I met somebody in the auto component space. Everybody is trying to decode what their customers want on an ongoing basis. So we see this as a category agnostic problem as we go forward. Now, while what we do is a part of helping this industry at scale, now I really want to leave all of us with one thing, right? When we say that understand your customer better, understand what they're looking for. Now, everybody on this call are all consumers, right, of clothing. So I'm going to ask one question to everybody on the call now. How many products do you have? If you have over 100 products of clothing, accessories, and shoes in your wardrobe? Can you say yes on the chat box? Over 100. If you have anywhere between 50 to 100, can you say yes? Anybody having under 25 on the call? Now, whenever I ask this question, and it's between 50 to 100 and 100 above, like all of you said, and I was in this space a while back, right? And I said that if you are saying that let's all read data, all of us feel that what is going out of our whenever we go to a departmental store, we go to a brand store, when we buy something, the brand thinks that you actually bought. And I'm going to ask the next question to you. One, how many of the products in your wardrobe do you use frequently? What percentage of the products do you use frequently? Can you put the percentage on the chat box? Absolutely. And this is the numbers that here, not just in India, globally, that number is always around 10 to 20%, right? Now imagine when we all only use 10 to 20% of what we buy. Why are we buying a lot of products that we buy? For us consumers, we are equally responsible, because when we say consumer obsession, if consumers themselves are not rational, right, now we are causing a lot of wastage for the industry. Therefore, each one of us as consumers have to take some action. For the one action that I've taken in the last many months is reducing my wardrobe, and that's my wardrobe as we speak. It's under 25. And that's very boring, but you decide what you really want to have. But I think rationalize your wardrobe. And I want to share some statistics with you. Do you know the amount of water consumed in making one t-shirt? Any guesses? Amount of water consumed in making one t-shirt? 2,400 liters. 2,400 liters of water, which can actually satisfy 900 days of a human's drinking water requirement, right? So I think all the wastage that our wardrobe wastage at a global level, it's going to result in a huge amount of wastage. Not only that, and if you buy something which we really don't want, I can tell you brands have no clue of what is the real demand. The real demand is in the wardrobe, not in the shopping center, right? Therefore, I think we have a huge gap between what is the real demand and what is the shopping demand, right? We shop a lot of stuff, 80% of that we don't use. And, I'm sure a lot of people ask me this question whenever I present in the industry forums. They're saying that if you reduce all of this, dhanda kaise hoga, right? And I want to give you a case study. I think some of you must have heard about this brand called Patagonia. I think if you have not, please read about this brand. Patagonia is a brand which is living sustainability. They not only preach, they do it, right? As a company, they never went public because they don't want to chase growth for the sake of growth, for continue to remain a private company. And this was their ad. This was their ad in the newspaper for a Black Friday. Don't buy this jacket. This was Patagonia's ad. Do you know what happened when we did this? Who will go and say, don't buy my product, right? And in fact, they grew faster than anybody else during that period, because people know that, this brand preaches and lives by it. For business will come, and, when you really do it. And I was recently in Zurich in one of their stores. I was wearing a black jacket, which was pretty loose, and I wanted to buy something tighter. Do you know what the salesperson, I wanted to test what these guys are. Do they really, practice it? First thing that salesperson asked me, why do you need a jacket? You already wear one. And I said, I want something. Yeah, absolutely, Aman. And in fact, they said that, do you want to alter this jacket? We have a tailoring service here, right? So that's the mindset of this brand. It's a great case study to watch. So I want to leave all of you with two hashtags. One is, we all individually can look good with less. We have seen ourselves, the data on this chat box tells you that starting today, right? And I was in US talking to a conference, and one person came back and saying that, Ganesh, you spoke about this in Amsterdam. Since then, I have reduced my wardrobe. So even if one of you, two of you reduce wardrobe post this conversation, I think we have done it, right? And if you are a brand, you can buy less and sell more using technology. And that's the area that we help brands and retailers to make sharp forecast and actually reduce wastage. For two things, each one of us can contribute and brands can actually benefit from using latest technology. So I want to leave you with my contact here. So you can scan this QR code in case you would like to reach out for anything, not necessarily business. I can more than happy to share my knowledge any point of time, wherever it will be of use. And the second one is I want to leave you with a freebie, which is compilation of our thought starters. This is a 256-page book, which you can download and leave it for 10 seconds.